Santham Academy. Welcome to Digital Kaksha. To get updates on new videos, click the subscribe button and the bell icon.
Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss second chapter, that is kings, farmers and towns. In this chapter we will discuss the history of 1200 years, that is from 600 BC to 600 AD. This time period is also known as post-Vedic era. Post-Vedic era. Under this time period, we will discuss the history of 600 BC to 600 AD and whatever the political, social and economic changes took place in this time period, we will discuss one by one. The major component which are the part of this chapter are introduction of new religion. New religions were introduced, or even you can say new ideology were introduced. What were the new religions introduced at that time? Jain religion and Bauddha religion. Clear? Introduced by Mahavir Swami and Mahatma Buddha. Clear? Apart from the introduction of the new ideology and new religion, we will also discuss the formation of Mahajanpad. Okay, so we will discuss about the Mahajanpad, especially our focus will be remain on Magad. Magad was a big territory and it was one of the prominent Mahajanpad of that time. Clear? So under this one, not only we will discuss about the Magad, but also we will discuss the different dynasties which ruled over the Magad, especially the Mauryan dynasty, because it was considered the one of the biggest dynasty of ancient India. Now before we going to conclude this topic, we will first discuss about the different resources which normally provide the information about the past or help us to reconstruct the past. We can divide these resources into two parts. Now we have discussed already, we can divide these resources into two parts: literary resources and archaeological resources. Under this one, literary resources, we will discuss about the text article like books and manuscripts. So these are the two important part of literary sources, books and manuscript. Under archaeological resources, we will discuss about the inscription, coins, buildings, monuments, etc. So these are the resources which provide lots of the information about the past. Historians normally believe or having more trust on the archaeological sources because these cannot be tempered. These are the permanent record of past. Okay? Another drawback of the literary sources, the time period. Time period is not certain. Okay, number of the texts which are available to us, so it is difficult to find out the time period when was it written. Okay. Second, the drawback of the literary source is that a author's personal opinion also somehow do not focus on the some other issues. Like when we discuss about the history or other issue, you will find when the Chinese visitors or travelers came to India, they normally focused only on Buddha religion, and their concerning part was Buddha text, Buddha articles, Buddha aspects of life. That means they neglect the other side of the society, political, social and other issue. Another important drawback, apart from my personal opinion, when the texts were copies, literary sources were copied, suppose original documents were lost and it was copied, in that condition the details or the information which were written earlier, now it was manipulated. Even the some information, further information is added or some of the information is removed. For example, just we take the example of Mahabharata. So in the initial stage, the very limited shloks were there in Mahabharata. But after the adding number of the things, it reached up to 1 lakh shlok. That means addition somehow, manipulation somehow took place in these type of the literary resources. Now we will discuss one by one all these resources. First we will start with the archaeological resources, that is inscriptions. Inscriptions are one of the most important resource to reconstruct the past. The study of inscription. First we will discuss about the what are the inscription, that is written record on hard surface. Written record on hard surface like wall, metal plates, pottery, etc. comes under the inscription. Okay? We also discussed about the literary resources. Those were also a written record, but it was not written on hard surface. So those written records which are written on hard surface comes under the category of inscription, and the study of inscription is called epigraphy. In the same way, number of the old languages, old scripts are mentioned over there. So study of old writings is known as paleography. Now, some of the importance of inscription we have already discussed. All these inscription includes the achievements, the ideas or any activities performed by the people who commissioned them, especially the higher authority, elite section, or we can say kings. They normally perform number of the ritual, number of the activities by them. Sometime you will find donation was given at that time by the kings. So these were also mentioned on inscription. Some inscription also having the name and date of the people who commissioned them. So lots of the information we derive through the inscription. During the Mauryan period, because our focus is on, in this chapter, our focus is on Magad and Mauryan period, lots of the inscriptions were used by Ashok. These inscriptions are available at 47 different places. In the first chapter, we also found a number of the inscription, but it could not decipher, it could not be recognized what was written. Okay? Now, number of the inscription we have discussed. We will further in the next topic, we will discuss the types of the inscription used by Ashoka. and what were the some important components or important messages were engraved on this inscription, we will discuss further. These inscriptions were written in 4 different scripts. As we have discussed, the Mauryan Empire was expanded across the country. Even present day Pakistan, Afghanistan was also a part of Mauryan dynasty. So number of the inscriptions are found at different places and it was used at large scale. The 4 basic scripts were used to write down the inscription were Greek, Armenic, Kharoshti and Brahmi. These were the 4 major scripts. Greek and Armenic were used in western part of the empire like Afghanistan, present day Afghanistan, because these territory were Afghanistan was somehow ruled by the Greeks also. The Kharoshti was used in present day Pakistan. And Brahmi were used in rest part of the empire, that is from the northern part up to the southern part of the empire, from Uttar Pradesh you can say up to Mysore. So up to Mysore the Brahmi was used as a major script to write down inscription. Brahmi is written down from left to right and it is somehow considered the mother script of all other present languages like Hindi, Bengali, Marathi, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, etc. Clear? Now these inscription provides lots of the information about the past. So gradually we will discuss all these information which were mentioned in different inscription provided by or used by Ashoka. I am just taking one of the example like Kalinga War took place in 261 BC, which was mentioned in Rock Edict 13. Okay? So these inscriptions are the major source of our information. Now we will discuss the another archaeological source which provide lots of the information about the past is coin. Just now we have discussed inscription were used and different script were used. Up to 1838 no one could decipher the Brahmi script. First time in 1838 James Prinsep could decipher the Brahmi script, which assist the historians, not only the European historians but also the Indian historians, to reconstruct the past. Number of the scripts was also collected. More than 8,000 scripts were collected by the Colin Mackenzie, which were further deciphered. So credit goes to James Prinsep for deciphered the Brahmi script, which somehow helped us to reconstruct the past. Now some of the letters which are derived from Brahmi into Devanagari Lipi or Devanagari script, just I am giving some example. So these are like these. It is the letters used in Brahmi and now which are used in Devanagari script. Okay. Now these we can say either the T or the cross type of the alphabet which was used in Brahmi represent Ka. D type of letter represent Cha. This 4 type of numeric figure represent Ma. These L type of figure represent Ra, and C type of the figure represent Dha. So these are the some example of Brahmi script which was further modified, and these letters were somehow taken from Brahmi into Devanagari Lipi. Now we will discuss about the another important source of information, that is coins. Coins also provide us lots of the information about past. Coins also throw lots of the light on different historical events took place. We get information, political information, religious information, social information from or about past through coins. The study of coins called numismatics. So coin we already discussed, that is one of the important resource to reconstruct the past. Now whatever the information we are getting through the coins, just we are discussed. 600 year BC, 600 year BC, the punch coin were used. Punch, or we can say stamped. These are called punch marked coin. Punch marked coins. On this type of the coins there was no inscription, only the different symbols were used. Nothing was written on these punch marked coins, and most probably these coins were issued by kings and perhaps by merchants and bankers, and it was made up of silver and copper. That means gold was not used at that time and inscription was missing. Only such type of the symbols were used. First time 200 BC, or we can say 2nd century BC, the coins were including names and images of ruler. Names and images of ruler first time introduced in 200 BC or 2nd century BC by Indo-Greek ruler. Okay, Indo-Greek ruler, basically that is, we can say, the people or men and women belong to different community. That is, the man was belong to India and the female belong to Greek, and they were became the somehow got the position or higher authority in that time period and ruled the some part of our country. One of the important Indo-Greek rule was Milind. In the some of the text it is called Meander. In 1st century AD, that is the first time when the gold coins were used. Gold coins were used by Shak. During the Gupta period also we get a number of the gold coins which were remarkable for its purity, and during the Gupta period there is a lots of the coins were available. That means at that time somehow there was a lots of the trade and commerce taking place between India and rest part of the world, and somehow we were comparatively in better economic position. Gupta dynasty, Gupta time period also is known as golden time period of our country. During the post Gupta period there were a few gold coin available. it shows whether the different historians having different opinions. Some historians says that because there is lack of the gold coins available during the post-Gupta period, that means it shows that there was a lack of trade and commerce between India and Europe. Some historians says that it is not like that. New trade routes and new trade centers were developed and these coins were in circulation at large scale. It was not hoarded, and because it was not hoarded, that's why it is not available in our country. It was circulated. Some other information which normally it's given or we get through the coins, like some religious aspects, like during the Gupta period, images of the Garud and Vishnu was embossed on this coin. It shows the Gupta rulers were somehow devotees of Lord Vishnu. Along with this, the picture of Samudragupta carrying Veena shows that he was patron of art. Other information, religious information, we can say that one of the another image, and during the Ashwamedh Prakram, coins were also issued by Samudragupta, which shows he conducted the Ashwamedh Yajna. That was called Yajna. Now we say normally nowadays it's called Ashwamedh Yajna. So these type of the religious information, religious faith also we get through the different coins. So these are the some basic or important sources of information about past which normally assist us to reconstruct the past. I hope that is clear to all of you. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like, share and subscribe for more.